Harper Audio presents Chesapeake Requiem, A Year with the Watermen of Vanishing Tangier Island by Earl Swift, read by Tom Parks. Introduction. A day after the storm passed, Carol Pruitt Moore climbed into her skiff and set off for the ruins of Canaan. It was her habit to strike west from the harbor into the channel that split her island in two. She'd throw open the throttle and crouch forward as the boat's nose came up and its stern dug deep, her 6-foot frame rocking against swells that thudded the fiberglass hull. One hand on the tiller, ball cap pulled low to cheat the wind. She would speed past the county dock and 20-odd workboats parked off to port, and to starboard, a ragged line of crab shanties, weather-scoured sheds perched on stilts a few feet over the drink, surrounding decks stacked high with wire mesh crab pots. A watery little business district, home to the greatest fishery of its kind in the world. Out past the last of the shanties, the channel opened into the Chesapeake Bay, and most every day she threw the boat into a banking turn to the north. This time of year she was running afoul of the prevailing winds, and if they were blowing against the tide, the journey would not be smooth. But, like most of her neighbors, Carol Moore had been born into a seafaring family. She was the 8th generation of her kin born on Tangier Island, 16 open-water miles from the nearest mainland town in Virginia. She could handle a boat before she could read. On a typical afternoon, she'd hug the edge of a treeless, uninhabited marsh that islanders called Uppards, until a mile along she reached Tangier's northern tip, where a century past a community thrived. Canaan had long since washed away, but she found sanctuary on the deserted beach there, an escape from the close quarters and relative bustle of town. And more, she came upon tiny bottles once filled with patent medicines, offered by visiting drummers to island women 100 years dead. Hamlin's Wizard Oil, a 19th-century tonic for cancer, quinsy, and bites of dog, and Green's Infallible Liniment, a cure-all for man or beast, and Turlington's Balsam of Life, said in its day to cure kidney stones and inward weakness. She found 18th-century clay pipes and headless porcelain dolls. She collected bits of crockery, edges tumbled smooth by the surf. Each relic she plucked from the sand was a tangible link to her forebears, for her father's people had lived at Canaan for generations, back when it had its own school and a general store and 30-odd houses, and had stayed until the last holdouts quit the place. By the time she was born, in 1962, that abandonment was decades past, and none of Canaan's buildings remained. But on childhood visits, she had seen chickens and goats still roaming loose there, along with thickets of wild rose and rhubarb and so much anise that the whole place smelled like licorice. She remembered, too, walking deep into the marsh with her father, weaving among water bushes to a small cemetery far from the water. Its simple marble headstones testified to the lives of good Christians, loyal wives, hard-working watermen. Here was where her great-grandparents had passed their days, and their parents, and theirs, people who persisted in her blood, her looks, her habits, and manners. Here lay reminders of what she would become, and of the impermanence of all things. Some days she spent hours there walking the water's edge. Others she stayed for just minutes. Almost always she left for home feeling more sturdily, steadily grounded. Only this afternoon promised to be different. For the previous 3 days, Tangier had been raked by Hurricane Sandy, its winds blowing a steady 50 knots or better, gusting past 70. The gale had conspired with the tides to swamp the place. White-capped waves had rolled in from the east, breaking over streets and into homes. Water had surged through the channel, sweeping away anything not anchored firm. At high tide, only a few knobs of high ground and a single humpbacked bridge had escaped the flood. Now, with the air scrubbed clean, whatever caught Moore's eye revealed itself in preternatural
Sample complete. Ready to continue?